3 years ago, this Polish roster was on top of the world, finishing number 1 in Europe, the most competitive region, qualifying to the World Championships and winning the entire thing. This team appeared from nowhere and cemented themselves into Brawl Esports history. But 3 years later, it all collapses. From a team that were labelled the next generation of the BSC, they haven't been able to reach the same levels they were back in 2023. And while 2 of the players are still playing at the top level, one has fallen into the hands of chaos, being dropped by top orgs 3 times in the last 6 months, failing to qualify for 3 monthly finals, and is now certain to not appear at the World Finals for the first time since his victorious run 3 years ago. Nawi has hit rock bottom, and we will be going through his journey starting in December 2025. And by the way, this video contains the worst performance of a top org ever, the worst transfer of a BSC, and the biggest fall of a world champion. So sit tight and buckle up. This is going to be one crazy ride. The Polish roster afoot in 2025, the same roster that won the 2023 World Championship under Zeta Division, were cracking. They had a mediocre performance at Worlds, humiliated in the semis with a 3-0 sweep by runners-up Humble. Following the tournament, the roster disbanded and the Polish champions were starting a new journey on their own. Meanwhile, with Joker leaving SK to reunite with his home org at Totem, this gave our protagonist Nawi the opportunity to form a new super team with the likes of Yoshi and Ope, and show to the world that he still has it in him to win another world championship. This SK team were one of the best in the region. Last year they finished number 1 in EMEA and were also runners-up in the Brawl Cup, another big LAN in Brawl Esports. They were not a team to be ignored, and they've been hunting for silverware for many years, believing this year could be the year they did it. They even turned last year's run into a documentary, which kind of flopped after getting knocked out in the quarters. But it's a new year and now a new team. The season had reset and the first monthly final was approaching. They were going to need all the points they could get to make an early LAN appearance, especially the competition looming in the EMEA region. But things were already looking downhill. Monthly finals won February. SK started the year in EMEA against an underdog team, now known as Metsport. On paper, this should have been the perfect warm-up match for SK, an automatic step into the semi-finals. Set 1, they started strong. With an aggro Mortis and gem carrier Gus, they had a solidified center, but took a Shelly, which is slightly peculiar for this map, but her buffies at the time were OP, so it's a decent pick. CMM respond with a Shade to fight back and create space with the help of walls, Pam as the main gem carrier and controller, and Rico for the high DPS. The Mortis not finding these kills and Shelly not getting close enough to create room, only Gus can match up in the long range, and the overwhelming pressure from CMM gives them the first game, and more mistakes in game 2 result in a rather decisive first set loss. Okay, minor setback for SK, but there is still hope as they go, wait, is that Hank in Brawl Ball in the Big 26? Okay, maybe it's the 2025 draft kicking in, but playing Hank into a high damage, high anti-tank and buffy meta is not the play, especially double downing with the Poco. CMM respond with Shade to haunt SK again, Gale for a great defensive brawler, and El Primo. El Primo? Okay, so the drafts are a little weird, but SK Shelly here should give some hope, especially countering the Shade and Primo, right? Right? It's another strong start off the bat, with CMM unable to escape. SK can box them in their half, but the flaw is apparent. Despite El Primo and Shade needing to get close to be effective, and with the Shelly knocking down these walls, Hank also needs the walls to cover up, and you'll notice Nawi refusing to move up the field at times. This is because Hank could be an easy super feeder for CMM, which would turn the game on its head, but had SK chosen a more aggressive or high damage dealing brawler that could secure more kills, they would have more control of the game's tempo to sweep through the second set. SK easily win the first game, but CMM have learnt and are ready to adapt their gameplay. They overextend a little in game 2, which creates an opportunity for SK to get an early goal, but they don't capitalize on it. And then another opportunity presents itself, but Nawi holds onto the ball for a little too long. But as soon as the Shelly is taken down, by far the biggest problem for CMM, they can walk up the pitch with the ball and enter SK's half for the first time this game. Jade and El Primo torment the Hank and Poco of SK, which creates the space and time for the final pass and shot on goal, securing the game for CMM. Final game, CMM are just waiting for the Shelly to be taken down before they commit in a big push. Whilst they're waiting for the opportunity to present itself, Jade and El Primo are very happy to cycle their lives to put pressure on SK and prevent an overflow, resulting in a goal. And when the Gale Hypercharge is activated, it's over for SK. The stun allows Primo to take down the Shelly and let Shade circle around to take down the Hank and Poco and score a goal. In the dying seconds, SK equalise, but as overtime starts, a clear winner is found. Rico and Shade can use their utility to launch up the field to create the space for the pass to Primo and the final goal. Really well worked comeback for CMM, who are now 2-0 in the first quarter-finals. Alarm bells are definitely ringing for SK, who do fix their drafts to equalise the score 2-2. But that momentum is now thrown out the window with a Juju pick on Heist. I mean, what is going on? I guess it's picked to counter the Eve on water with another water walking brawler, but the lack of damage is really hurting SK. Although Ope is making this Juju work too well for what it should do, Nawi and Yoshi are struggling in their long range matchups. Nawi is losing almost every single 1v1 against the Brock, and Otis is not threatening enough in the left lane, meaning SK keep retreating to spawn, and before you know it, CMM are chipping down SK safe with every game until the unthinkable happens.
It would be massive, but now 20% SK Gaming behind. Rokello cracks the safe. SK Gaming are in trouble.
They need to make the move now. Still a crack left on CMM safe before they can even start to get the damage to next. 12 seconds, and this might be a defense. Down goes Otis on the left-hand side. Now he falls as well. And Kello on his debut, spinning on SK Gaming as they take them down in a 5-set series to make the semis.
SK Gaming have been knocked out in the first monthly final of EMEA 2026. But I guess this thing kind of happens to the best teams every now and then. I mean, take Humble, back-to-back world finalists with a win in 2024, got cooked in the grand finals this year by a newly formed FUT roster, and some other well-known teams failed to qualify too. So it's not the end of the world, especially for month 1. They still have 2 more months to make it to Brawl Cup anyways. So it's all up from here on. So they failed to qualify for the March monthly finals, and I did cover their final game in the lower brackets in this video, so I definitely recommend you guys watching that. And to rub more salt into the wound, the 2 Brawl Cup slots for EMEA were already decided by FUT and Humble. So with 1 LAN already missed, SK are now preparing for the long-term goal of qualifying to the World Championship, meaning SK would need some more points in the next 4 monthly finals, and this is where the comeback started. 6-1. They got smashed, and I think I'm starting to see a pattern here with this team. Drafting is the leading factor to their losses. I mean, first of all, Carl on Safe Zone is a rather dangerous pick when facing 3 brawlers that can outrange and out-damage you. But with the choice of the flying hook gadget, Carl becomes more of an aggressive space maker for SK. But Carl loses 9 out of 10 times against Penny's Salty Barrel, and SK, they can't even lay a finger on the middle, which has been dominated by Navi's control. Now he is also struggling on the raft, being stuck in his own spawn for most of game 2. SK can barely get a foot on the middle, but the break does come through, and they can scrape a win thanks to a Carl Hypercharge. But Navi are not fooled, as they unleash everything onto SK and take the lead in the final game. And yes, this set was the only set where SK won a game, resulting in the next 2 sets to be an absolute disaster show. Knockout gives Navi a free kit game on one of Kit's best game modes, and is that a Rosa? Now, I'm no expert or professional. I don't think Rosa is going to help you on quite the open matchup, especially when you are feeding all of Navi's supers. Plus, Jelly, it's a massacre. So now it's time for SK to lock in. Reverse sweep, here we come. Nope. Nope, they're just going to pick a Meg. A brawler who has not received any buffs or buffy treatments at this point. I couldn't even tell you what is going on with this org. SK then dropped Kit, which usually synergizes well with a tanky brawler like Meg. I don't think this is the time for the Kit cheese against the powerhouse of a Navi draft like this. Now he can barely stay in the mecha form. The Shade is having the time of his life, and SK's best brawler is somehow the Cat. Bear in mind, this brawler, to my knowledge at least, has not been seen in a Brawl Ball monthly final, maybe even ever, but for the sake of realism, I'll just say 2026. And while this abomination plays out, let me tell you about today's sponsor, Team to Watch. I got you there. But seriously, we need to stop this voodoo magic. But now it's time to evaluate this SK team as we end split 1. SK are sitting in 8th, which doesn't sound good, but they're only 26 points off 3rd place, Team Heretics. So SK are not completely out of the question for a world's placement, but it will definitely take some of that voodoo magic to secure a place later this year. With SK in 8th place and having possibly the worst start to a BSC for a top tier team like itself, they decide that they need to shake things up and fix the problems causing these poor results. And so, SK make a decision to... Wait a minute. They drop Nawi? So, SK Gaming drop Nawi in the spring break and take up a rookie from the up-and-coming big talent, now known as Kuma. And to spell it out to everyone who's not familiar in the BSC, SK have just dropped a world champion for a newbie with 0 monthly final wins. No offense, mate. Oh, sorry, yes, now this is the part where I should be explaining why SK dropped Nawi and why the reason is justified. And the quick answer to this is, I have no f***ing idea, and SK Gaming are a clueless org. No, seriously, I actually don't know. I decided to rewatch all of SK's games in a monthly final this year and gave a rating to the players for each game. And although this is a rough ranking and should be taken to heart, the general trend is that this team have been performing below average. In month 1, OP was the only one above average, with Yoshi and Nawi just being average, but monthly final 3, Nawi and OP were kinda joined on a 4, and Yoshi was the worst on a 3. But overall, a dreadful 3rd month. And this doesn't even consider stats like KD or top plays, just general performance with their given brawlers. It's within reason to say OP is the best player in this team when we look at overall performance and individual moments, but not by a lot. His teammates are 1 or 2 ratings behind him, but even OP's best performance is a little above average. I mean, even in the 2 sets that they won this year, they were mostly above average, with OP claiming the only 7, not even a great 8. But looking at Nawi's ratings, when isolated, they look really bad. However, we need to consider the fact that his ratings isn't that bad compared to his teammates who are equally as bad, but more importantly, the brawlers Nawi is being forced to play because of their drafting. It's an issue we'll look into a little later, but I'm just going to say that Nawi is making some serious work out of some of these brawlers he's been given, with some not even top 10 brawlers showing up in that month. So Nawi is currently a free agent, but with a space in Team Heretics opening up after Sabim just left, Nawi is called up to take his spot. Now on paper, this is a pretty good move. Heretics are 3rd in EMEA, and they have the likes of iChaos and Marco bringing a wealth of experience and are now joined by a former world champion. This roster could brew up a storm in the monthly finals, but before they unleash their might, they need to get through the monthly qualifiers, which should be a breeze. I mean, Heretics haven't even missed a monthly final in 2026 and have one of the most stacked teams in the region. Who can even stop? And now he is August again. Rewinding a little, Heretics are dropped to lower brackets by Replied Totem, who by the way have Joker, the same guy now replaced at SK, and then they're punished again by, oh wow, big talent. This big talent team are just the Undertakers of EMEA this year, I guess. Heretics immediately decided Nawi was the problem and bring back Sabim. I mean, can this guy just make up his damn mind, please? Okay, so now Nawi is August again, and it all seems hopeless as we head into July. But Med Support have a space for him, only because their original member was caught cheating. By the way, this is the same team that started his downfall back in February. They were recruiting him to carry them to a monthly final in July. But I guess the curse continues as they get knocked out by Big, and then you won't believe it, but SK managed to knock out Met Support. And they still don't qualify for the monthly finals. What is the point of this team? Okay, so let's just get a quick recap here. Now leads his Polish brothers from third to join SK in the first split, where he gets knocked out by Met Support in month 1, does not qualify in month 2, gets knocked out in the quarters again month 3, does not make Brawl Cup, gets dropped by SK, joins Heretic to only put their year in jeopardy and to leave his third organization this year, and finally join a team who started this cascade to descending madness to not qualify again. Did that one breath. And that gives us a grand total of 3 monthly finals missed, 2 quarter-final exits, 4 orgs with 2 of them dropping him in the last 6 months, we're including Foot, I guess, and 1 man who is hopelessly trying to find himself in a sea of competitive chaos and uncertainty. I mean, you can only feel sorry for the man. It's not really his fault. Okay, maybe Heretics and Met Support could have been his fault, but SK was definitely not his fault. And the reason is because, and nobody saw this coming, but drafting. But looking back at these ratings, it's quite obvious to tell the games where their drafting was worse, and those performances were dipping into the 5s, 4s and 3s. But when they had a rather solid draft, we saw a stronger SK who were getting into the 7s and even reaching into some 8s when looking at individual games. The team that started the 2026 season was a fantastic team. Each player had phenomenal mechanical skill, talent, and were strong favourites to make some LAN finals later this year. But they keep taking the weak and poor brawlers, and they're brawlers that don't even work into an opponent's draft or map, and that is why they make themselves look like such a bad team every month. I mean, some of the brawlers that Nawi is taking are crazy, including the Knockout Rosa, Brawl Ball Hank, and pre-Buffy Meg. And then some picks that aren't suited to these maps and drafts are equally as bad. It's easy to pin all the blame on one player, but it's not an individual problem, it's a team problem. Had they fixed their drafts, then this team would definitely have a better win rate than just 25%. Could have made the monthly finals or grand finals, which could have taken them to a Brawl Cup and maybe even a World Finals placement later this year. Winning a monthly final or LAN is definitely a stretch with the likes of Foot and Humble, but they would have been a much better team and maybe even a top 3 team in EMEA. But the reason that SK have done so bad and why Nawi had looked so much worse this year in his entire career is down to, and let's all say it together, drafting. And to conclude this video, I don't think Nawi's BSC career is over. If he can find a team where the drafting is much better and fits his style of gameplay, then he can go very far, just like he did in 2023. But teams have been rather stubborn this year, including SK, Heretics and Met Support. I just hope that Nawi and also Lane find the team that they deserve, because their raw potential is just insane and they deserve the right teams that will take them far next year. They have so much more to give competitively in Brawl Esports. The journey has been a rough one for Nawi this year, but there are still chapters in his story yet to be written.